And so if I am so focused on staying on the line, I can't fulfill my assignment. But my God is big enough to handle my fall, my strokes, grubs, my mess ups, because he's already prepared for what I might do. He knows what I'm going to do before I do it, and he already made preparation for me before I get there. What follows darkness is light. That darkness is the indicator that light is getting ready to shine. So there it is in Genesis, when darkness was upon the face of the deep, and God in the spirit form moved upon the face of the waters, and then God said, let there be. Because darkness precedes the light. Are you understanding what I'm saying? But he needs the darkness there so that God can move upon the face of the deep, so that the shift can take place. Let's look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor that shift take place in the darkness. Y'all didn't hear what I just said. Everybody's not going to see the shift that's happening. They see the chaos, but they don't see the shift. They see all the craziness going on in your life, but they don't understand that underneath the darkness, God is moving in secret. He's moving in quiet. He's moving in the hidden places. He's moving in the cracks and the corners and the crevices. He's moving in places that you cannot see. And when the light comes, they're going to see a new order. Afraid to dream, afraid to imagine. But I'm here to tell you that you are an infinite, limitless, boundless being. Are you willing to do what is necessary to have what you desire?
Thank you for joining us. Please take a moment and like the Facebook page. Subscribe to the YouTube page and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when we go live. If you are finding value in these enrichment sessions, please consider supporting this page financially. Your donations allow us to continue to provide spiritual enlightenment, self-exploration, and kingdom knowledge. Also, consider becoming a partner because partnerships have this privilege. As a partner, you'll be able to attend our annual Partners Only Summer Summit, join us for our 6 a.m. virtual daily guided meditation sessions, weekly advanced empowerment sessions, regular prophetic insights and instructions, 30% discount on all Emerge books and merchandise, and a custom Emerge t-shirt. You'll also gain full access to the private Emerge Movement community page as well as group chats. Once again, thank you for watching.
Good morning and welcome to the Emerge Empowerment Session. I am your host, Isaac J. Miles Sr., and I am ecstatic and happy that you have chosen to join me this morning as we begin this journey over these next 13 weeks to talk about 13 things that you need to know for the coming year, for the year 2026. I want to make sure that you are consciously aware so that you can be prepared for what is coming, what is emerging, and what is taking place. We are here to help you to make sense out of what feels like chaos right now, what feels like confusion and anarchy, what feels like things are just crumbling and falling apart. We want to give you some guidance and some markers along the way on this roadmap so that you're able to discern accurately what is taking place and nothing will take you by surprise, but that you will be prepared for anything that is going to unfold and happen so that even in the midst of what feels like chaos, you can find peace and you can live in the oasis of the divine spirit that is God has created for all of us who will listen, learn, and follow its intuitive knowing that works in each and every one of us. So you're tuned into one of the most powerful places on the planet, and I'm glad that you are here. Before we get started in today's conversation, I need all of you to help me very quickly by just, first of all, sharing this live with all of your friends, your families, your cousin, your mama, your daddy, your sister, your auntie. Share with everybody that you know, anybody that's following you on whatever platform you're watching from. Send it out to all of your followers and invite them to come and be a part of the conscious conversation. We need everyone to be here so that we can spread this message far and wide. We can have a large collaborative conversation, a robust conversation where everyone is able to give their insight, their input, and ask their questions. So please take a moment right now and share. I know a lot's going on. I know a lot is unfolding. I know that we are living in some troubling times, challenging times, and I wish I could tell you that things are going to be better tomorrow. They are not. I wish I could tell you that they're going to be better in a month or two. They are not. But they are going to get better. I can promise you that things are going to get better and that everything that is happening right now is somehow working together for good. That there is an interconnectedness with everything that is taking place, not only in the States, but in the global community as a whole. There are things that are unfolding, and when we look at it, zoom out and look at it from the God perspective, from a higher consciousness, from a wider lens, you're able to see how strategically things are twisting and turning and pieces are being moved around on the chessboard of life in order to support a great awakening and a new heaven and a new earth that is a new way of thinking, a new way of operating, a new way of functioning within this three-dimensional world that we call Earth. So I need you to share. I need you to share. Everybody, share this live right now. Send out a text message. Go ahead and copy the link and send it out to your group chat and send it out to all of your friends and tell them, listen, you want to come and be a part of this conversation. I think you ought to listen to this guy. I think you ought to come and listen to what's going on. I'd love to get your perspective as well. Comment section is wide open, so please make sure that you do that. That brings me to number 2. The second thing that I need for everybody on every platform to do for me is to engage. I'm not here just talking for my health. I'm not just here to hear the sound of my own voice, although I kind of like my voice. I've been told I have a really nice voice, like a radio voice, that I should do voiceovers. I don't know. But anyway, squirrel got distracted. But I need you to engage, because the more you engage, the further we get pushed out in the algorithm, and then the larger the audience will be. So I need you to engage, but I also want you to engage because I am interested in what you are thinking. I'm interested in how you feel about the things that we're conversing about. Hello, Eve. Hello, Glenda. Hello, Henry. Hello, Junior. I see you guys on here. Please hang in here with me for just a little while longer. I promise you we're going to get into the conversation in just a few minutes. Engage. Ask questions, give your comments, give your thoughts, give your ideas, your concepts. If you agree, wonderful. If you disagree, that's okay too. The comment section is open, but please, everybody, engage in this live conversation. Finally, the third thing that I need for everyone to do, I need you to like and share. Like. Double screen, double click over here and other places. I need for you to double click, double tap, and run these likes up, because the more likes that we get, again, the greater our presence is in the algorithm, and more people will be alerted to our presence over here, and others will come and be a part of the conversation. So I need some likes, y'all. I need some likes. Like it, love it. You know, you can hate it or be mad at it, laugh at it, whatever you want to do, but engage however you choose to do so. But make sure that you are sending those hearts or sending whatever emoji that you feel comfortable doing. I need for you to join us over here. Hello, Julio. Thank you for coming in. Thank you, Jerome. Hello, Deborah. Hello, Joe. Hello, Ron. Good to see you, Thomas. Glad to have you on. Everybody is welcome. Hang in here with me for just a little while. Today we talk about 13 things that you need to know for the coming year. We're speaking prophetically. We're looking into as it is. And I'm aware of some things that are unfolding on the global stage, in the global climate around the world that affects us all. We are in the midst, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard me say this for the last 3 to 4 weeks now, and I'm going to repeat it again today. We are in the midst of a global paradigm shift. Okay? GPS. Okay? A global paradigm shift. Not global positioning satellite. Okay? But a global paradigm shift. Okay, we are in the midst of an upheaval that is going to cause there to be a new way of thinking, operating, functioning within the global community throughout the world. That the collective consciousness of all of humanity is beginning to go through a shift. How we view things, how we perceive things, how we view each other, and how we think about society, how we think about what is right and what is wrong, because we are the ones who actually make that decision as far as the global community, as far as society is concerned. We collectively decide or agree amongst ourselves that certain things are acceptable and not acceptable. Whether they actually are or not, it becomes a matter of practice based upon the global agreement that we all come to. When we all decide that, well, this is acceptable. And you know that to be true because that shifts over a period of time. There are certain things, behaviors, ideas, beliefs that at one point was considered absolute taboo. They were considered something that was abhorrent, something that was rejected by general society, but slowly over a period of time, society's consciousness has shifted, and now those things that were once considered absolutely unacceptable are now not only acceptable, but embraced, and even in some cases, encouraged. There was a time when globally, slavery was considered acceptable. It was the law. It was the way that governments and countries functioned. It was a way of life. and it was, for the most part, by the global community, considered acceptable behavior, as acceptable practice. But slowly, over time, with much resistance and much effort, the consciousness of the collective began to shift concerning that, and now slavery is seen as the atrocity that it is inhumane. But that was not always the case. As a matter of fact, it was codified by the government of not just the United States, but several countries around the world. It took a period of time and some sustained resistance in order to begin to shift public perception. And then as we collectively shifted our consciousness, then that became something that was seen as the abhorrent, torturous behavior that it is, totally unaccepted, and that freedom and equality for all mankind has become the goal. It is not the reality, not as of yet. It is the goal. At least there was a point when it wasn't even the goal, but now at least it is the goal. Okay, even though while we are working to bring it into a reality, and so what I'm saying with all of that is to say is that as the perception of humanity shifts, so does the way that we function and operate. And what we are experiencing right now is a global paradigm or shift in the way that we believe and therefore consequently behave, and the things that we are accepting as a global community. This began at the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, and the pandemic was an indicator of the global shifting that was about to take place. I said to you, those of you who've been following the platform, I said to you back in 2019 that we were about to undergo this kind of shift, and that there was going to be a drastic upheaval that would take place and would span the period from 2020 up until 2030, and really be solidified in 2035. I began to enumerate and tell you about certain things that were going to take place and that how it was going to affect the global community. I did not predict the pandemic. I'm not going to sit here and try and lay claim to that. I did not. But I did say that there would be some catastrophic events that would have a global effect that would change how we think and how we believe and how we act and function as a global society. And then the pandemic hit. And during the pandemic, we all remember that, with everyone wearing masks and the search for vaccines, and over 1 million people died as a result of the COVID virus that just spread throughout all of the globe. And over 1 million kids. I want you to just think about that for a moment. Over 1 million people perished. Okay. And in many cases needlessly, because you had some of the powers that be, starting with America as well as some other countries, but mainly America, who had a collection of COVID deniers who said that COVID didn't exist. It wasn't a real thing. It was a hoax. It was a fake. It was this, that, and the other. All of this other kind of nonsense. And unfortunately convinced and influenced a number of people to the point where they didn't take necessary steps to protect themselves, and we needlessly lost over 1 million people from the planet to a virus that eventually became preventable or treatable if just followed certain protocols and been accepting of the science that was around it. Even now, with the science and the vaccines and the protocols in place, there are still those who are denying the effectiveness of the science, the scientific facts that these vaccines not only work, but they are life-saving. Okay, but we have the deniers that are out there. They're not as loud. Unfortunately, they've been given a megaphone here in the United States with our new Secretary of Health that we have in this country, who's a complete idiot, and the idiocy of the present administration. But around the world, globally, most people have began to come around and to understand that there are certain things, that protocols that we need to follow if we're going to keep humanity safe. I'm not trying to get into a geopolitical debate about that. That's really non-debatable. Okay, that's really non-debatable. Anybody who continues to debate that is just foolish. You're wasting time. Okay, there's really no debate there. There's really no debate. There are diseases that are out there that are wholly preventable with vaccines. Period. That's the end. Full stop. They don't cause autism. They don't cause any other kind of deterioration. They don't cause a deterioration in brain function or all this other nonsense. They prevent these harmful diseases. Full stop. Okay? Full stop. So that's not even debatable. We're not going to even have that debate. That's not the point of this conversation. All right? The point of the conversation is to talk about these things that are going to continue to unfold. So right now we're in what feels like a chaotic situation. And I explained last week why that is. That whenever a dramatic shift begins to take place, an epochal transition, that's the terminology that I love to use, an epochal transition, E-P-H-O-C-A-L, epochal, an epochal transition. A global shifting takes place in our world, our then it often preceded by what feels like chaos and anarchy. It feels like things are getting out of control. It feels like things are going crazy. This is a pattern that is followed throughout the history of humanity. This has been the pattern. There has always been this pattern, this epochal transition. There has always been this pattern of first being what feels like chaos. Then there is dramatic movement or shifting, the moving around of, you will, the proverbial chess pieces on the global stage and the board, a reset of things. And our reset began in 2020, is continuing now here in 2025, will continue through 2030. But there is this movement of the pieces, a reshaping and a resetting of the global society, our views, our values, our beliefs, our ideologies, what's acceptable, what's unacceptable. Then there is this awakening that takes place, and then finally a new order. An awakening that is a new thought, a higher consciousness, a more insight, more knowledge, more understanding, more revelation, and then a new order is set. And then the cycle begins again. And then the cycle of the pattern begins again. The pattern is chaos, shift, glory, glory, and then new order. Okay, glory, that is knowledge, new insight, new revelation, and then a new order. When we start to know better, then we start to do better. Okay? Now that is a pattern that each of us face individually and that we encounter throughout the entirety of our life. Just think about your life and look for this pattern in your life. You see it all the time, where you go through a period of chaos, what feels like chaos, confusion, anarchy, like things are falling apart when they're really falling into place. Things are going crazy. Things are out of control, it looks like. But then in the midst of what feels like the darkest periods of your life, in that darkness, pieces are being shifted around. You are being moved, sometimes physically from one location to another, mentally from one thinking pattern to another, spiritually from one idea and belief to another. Physically, you go through physical changes and transformations. Your environment begins to shift. Your connections begin to shift. And then there is an awakening. Then you start to become aware. It's not that new information has come, but that you become aware of information that at one point you were blinded to. You didn't see it. You didn't perceive it. You didn't understand it. Your perception is now broadened, opened, and you are enlightened. You become consciously aware. And that awareness then shifts your perception, shifts your outlook, and thereby shifts not only your perception and outlook, but your beliefs. It shifts your thinking, it shifts your conversation, it changes your language, and then that informs your behavior. So you start to make different choices and decisions in your life. And as a result, you get a new order. That is, now you start to live a different way, and the world that you are actively creating for yourself, whether consciously or unconsciously, we all live in the matrix of the reality that we create for ourselves, begins to now manifest a new reality for you to live in. Well, ladies and gentlemen, just as that is happening for you as an individual on an ongoing basis, and the cycle continues and repeats itself again and again. That is the evolutionary process. That is how you evolve. That is how you transcend, transition. That is how you begin to grow and develop as individuals. Well, what is true for us as individuals also happens on a collective global stage as well. That humanity goes through the same pattern. It is an epical transition. It is the pattern of humanity's evolution. It is the evolutionary pattern of the growth and the development of all humanity. It is how we make quantum leaps as a species within the earth. It is how we go from where slavery was acceptable and widely practiced to now it is unacceptable and not so widely practiced. It is where we go from one thing where homosexuality and lesbianism, LGBTQ plus was considered a mental illness, to now we understand that it is not a mental illness, but that it is a sexual orientation that we are born with, and that those people who fall within that spectrum, whatever it happens to be, are just as human and should be treated humanely as any other person. There's no difference. That we're every orientation is acceptable, accepted, and loved by God. Now that's going to make some of you religious Christian and Islam people very upset, and Jewish people very upset with me. Those of you who practice Judaism and Christianity and Islam specifically will get real upset with that, and you will take issue with that. And that's a conversation and a topic for another time. But it just is a fact. God accepts and loves everyone. Oh yeah, God may love them, but God doesn't accept them. You sound stupid. Okay? You sound absolutely stupid and asinine even saying that. God don't accept it. He loved the sinner, but he hate the sin. You sound stupid. You sound absolutely insane and inane. God absolutely accepts and loves every single person. Okay? God is love. That even your sacred text says that. It says it in the Bible, it says it in the Quran, it says it in every single sacred text that is known to man, that the very essence, the very core of God is love. So if God is at its core love, then no hate can come out of love. Love does not hate. Okay? It is impossible to be love and hate. So God does not hate. He does not hate anyone. He does not hate anything. God has no hatred in it. God is at its purest form, at its core, at its essence, at its force and power, at its base, at its the fullness, the isness of God is love. And part of love is acceptance and appreciation. Okay? And nothing that takes place, since God is omnipotent and also omniscient, that is all powerful and all knowing, nothing is beyond its reach and nothing is beyond its knowing. So nothing catches God by surprise. So God wasn't shocked or surprised or caught off guard when same gender loving people became more prominent in the earth. Like all of a sudden it was like, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do? God created them. So it has always known that they existed. All right. Anyway, again, that's not the topic of the conversation, so I don't want to get bogged down there. Okay. Give me a second here. Let me set my iPad screen to where it does not lock, and I have to keep opening it. Auto lock, never. There we go. All right. So, we're in the midst of this thing, this epical transition. We're in the midst of this global paradigm shift. We're in the midst of this unfolding that is taking place with humanity. All right? And so I want to give you, going forward, and we're not going to get to all of them today. I'm going to just deal with one of them. 13 things that you need to know, that you need to be consciously aware of, that are about to unfold on the global stage, or that some of them will unfold on a regional stage but have global implication, that you need to be consciously aware of. Because I do believe this principle that is found in the Bible is also found in the Quran as well, and in the Torah. Okay? That there is power in unity. That there is power when each of us as a divine expression of God will focus all of our energy, our spirit, our anointing on any particular thing. When we will come together in agreement as touching anything, when we collectively combine and merge our thoughts, our beliefs, our energy, our vibrational frequency, our spirit, our anointing, our force of power, that it increases the intensity of that force and creates a wave of change that affects the entire world. The Bible puts it like this: one can chase 1,000, two could put 10,000 to flight. Notice the multiplication there. Look at the equation. 1, 1,000, 2, 10,000. Look at how big, how exponential the growth is with just 2. Now imagine when we can get thousands and even millions of people to agree as touching anything, and look at the enormous change that can be affected. Imagine the enormity of the size of the change that can take place. The passage in Exodus, when it talks about them building a tower, what is called the Tower of Babel, it says that when all of the people of that particular nation, all of the people of that particular region came into agreement. They all spoke the same language. They all had the same mindset. They all had the same agreement. They all agreed that they were going to build this city, fortify its walls. It was going to be the greatest city that has ever lived, and that the key marker for this city was that they were going to build a tower that was going to reach up into the heavens. They came into agreement, and even in the text, in the narrative that is spoken there, even God and the angels themselves said they are in agreement, and there is absolutely nothing that will be impossible to them, because now they've all agreed. And that the solution to breaking up this particular act that they were proposing to do was to go down and to confuse their language so that they couldn't communicate with each other. They couldn't be on one accord. They couldn't be unified because they couldn't understand each other. Are you seeing the parallel of the parable that is given there in the Old Testament, and now what's taking place in the global community right now, especially here in the United States. It's like, if we want to stop the movement, we want to stop them from unifying, we want to stop them from creating a new way of thinking, being, and operating within the earth, then what we've got to do is go and introduce some chaos and confusion. See if we can't get them to oppose each other. See if we can't get them to be divided against each other. This present administration is a master of that, dividing and conquering. This present administration in the United States is a master of sowing discord and sowing confusion and creating division amongst pockets of society that would normally be unified and working together as one. He has expertly come up with ways of trying to find a little small, tiny little wedge issues that we might have some slight disagreement about, and magnifying those things, changing the language of the people who are speaking so that they're unable to really listen, hear, and understand each other, knowing that that will drive people apart. The people, like in that narrative in the Bible, will begin to scatter, and the project will be left abandoned. Are y'all hearing me? Okay, there was a global coalescence taking place in 2000. It started back in 2006, 2007. It really picked up steam in 2008. There was a coalescing around hope and unity and change and love and being a one great society. And this coalition and this mindset, this perception began to grow and grow and grow and grow until around about 2014, 2015, where agitators began to recognize that this is getting out of hand. And if we let this keep going, man, it's going to change everything. And so make America great again. And anybody who uses that terminology has got to explain one thing to me. Exactly what era was America great? Please tell me. Please tell me what era you're talking about when America was great. Was it that whole slavery era, or maybe Jim Crow, or segregation, or black codes, or COINTELPRO, or exactly what era was America great? Okay? I'll tell you, none. All right? We've always had the dream and the aspiration of being great for all mankind, but we haven't been there. We haven't achieved that. That's the goal. So someone comes along and sows that kind of discord to create this division, and then as a result, people scatter. They go off to their tribe. Tribalism becomes the thing. It becomes the order of the day. And everybody's now biting and fighting at each other and yumping and yelling and chomping and screaming. And that's exactly what is wanted. So you abandon the project that's at hand, and the tower never gets built. Well, here we are again in what feels like chaos. It feels like crazy anarchy, if you will, by those who think that by and this kind of discord and isolationism and nationalism and racism and sexism and classisms and all of the other isms are enough discord to just completely obliterate any idea of radical change and evolution within the earth. But what they don't understand is again highlighted in another biblical narrative about Joseph, that what you mean for evil, God has intended for good. What has been intended by those who are in the power structure to be evil, so that they can seize more power and reign as authoritarians and reign as controlling forces, is really now God is going to take that which was intended to be evil and turn it into good. because in the midst of all of the chaos and confusion that is taking place globally and locally and nationally, it is creating a great awakening. It is now beginning to usher out old paradigms, old behaviors, old beliefs, old leadership that is now antiquated and ineffective, and making space, creating space for new ideas, new systems, new structures to be in place, and new leadership with people with greater ideas, a more global ideal, and beginning to understand that we have to think about think more collectively than just individually. And it is giving rise to those movements taking place, many of them behind the scenes, underground, in the shadows, in what appears to be the darkness, that is going to give birth to a new order. Trust me when I say this to you, and I know people look at me like I'm a little bit nuts and a little bit crazy when I say it, but a new order is coming to this earth. A new order. Don't get scared by this terminology. A new world order. We're not talking about the Antichrist. We're not talking about 666. We're not talking about the beast and none of the other imaginary issues that, a lot of religious people get caught up in and start thinking, oh my goodness, the devil's taking over the world. There's no devil taking over nothing. It is a shift in humanity. It is a shift in our global consciousness. It is a shift in how we view things. And when the collective consciousness of humanity shifts, then so does how we operate, and how the global reality begins to shift along with it. And a new world order, a new way of operating, a new way of functioning for the global society, for humanity at large, is about to break forth. Now, it's not going to be next week or next month or next year, but it is coming. We've got to get through this shift, which is going to take us right on through 2030 and solidify itself in 2035. So we've got a little ways to go, at least another 10 years before it is solidified, another 5 years before we start seeing the breaking of day. Okay, we've got to get through this dark period right now. But this journey through this dark period, there are some things that you need to be consciously aware of. And what I'm going to talk about for these next few minutes is the number one thing that you need to be consciously aware of that is going to take place in 2026, that you need to pay close attention to. Now, it's going to sound a little bit wonky, a little technical, but because it is natural, but it also has spiritual implication. There is nothing that happens in the natural world that does not have spiritual implications. Let me say that again. There is nothing that takes place in the natural world that does not have spiritual implication. I will say it one more time for the people who are sitting in the back who are way too deep. I need you to come up out of the depth with your Hanama Shanama Ikandalobo Sai, and I need for you to think critically for a moment and understand that there is nothing that is happening within the natural world that does not have spiritual implications. Okay? So, if you're ready, then we're going to dig in. Oh my goodness, I got a whole bunch of comments over here, and I hadn't even looked over. Let me go back and run through real quick. Okay, some of you, that's you tagging different ones. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Toya. You are always diligent about doing so. Okay, Kimoria says a great awakening and a mass exodus is happening all at the same time. You are absolutely right, Kimoria. There's a great awakening happening in the United States and a mass exodus that is also coming and that is approaching as well. Now, for some people in the United States, that's going to make them real happy because they think, well, we don't want you here anyway. Love it or leave it. Okay. You think that that's what you want, but you really don't. This country was built by us. You don't even want me to go down that hole right there. Okay. But there is a mass exodus, and that exodus is not permanent. People are going to leave this country, exit this particular chaos, and remain away just long enough for the dust to settle, and then they'll come back and start to rebuild the areas that have been destroyed and torn down by this current administration and all of its policies and the people that are involved in it. But absolutely, that is true. There is a new heaven and a new earth that is definitely breaking forth. Okay? All right? And thank you, Whitland, for putting in the comments. She wrote down what I said. There is nothing that happens in the natural world that does not have spiritual implication. I need you to really understand that. Okay? So we're going to talk about one of these natural things that is going to happen in 2026. Matter of fact, it's going to occur in July of 2026. I know I'm jumping like way ahead. There's some things that are going to happen in January, February, March, April, May, June. But this, I'm jumping ahead because this is one of the most significant natural occurrences that is going to take place in July of 2026. And the outcome of this natural occurrence is going to have a huge, outsized economic implication, social implication, metaphysical implication, societal implication, spiritual implication. It is absolutely huge. The decision that is going to be made in July has to do with the USMCA. The USMCA. Now, for those of you who may not know what that is, it is the United States, Mexico, and Canada Trade Agreement. Okay? The United States, Mexico, Canada Agreement. It is what took the place of NAFTA. You remember NAFTA, okay? But this is that was the North American Trade Agreement, where they decided to change the name, even though they didn't change the entire structure and the substance of it. But one of the changes that was made, this was done under the Trump administration. We all know that. One of the changes that was made, he basically just wanted to change it because Obama had ratified it, and so anything Obama did, he wanted to try and change and put his own imprimatur on it. That's why he kept the general structure in place, but that he did make some very significant and strategic changes to it. Okay? One of the changes that was made and put in place with this USMCA was that this new pact includes a built-in sunset clause. That means that it has to come under review every 6 years. And 2026 will be the 6th year. It was put in place in 2020. It comes up for review or to be re-ratified in 2026. Now, those of you who understand numerology know the significance of the number 6. It is not just the number of man or the number of humanity, but it is the number of revolution, evolution, and change. Okay? Excuse me. Woo. Okay? The first review happens July of 2026. This will be the very first review of the USMCA. At that point, the 3 countries that are involved, the United States, Mexico, and Canada, they make up North America, must jointly decide whether to extend the agreement for another 6 years, or well, not 6 years. In this review, they're going to decide whether to extend it for another 16 years, which will carry it to 2042. 2042. Okay? Whether to extend it for another 16 years or rather to modify it or to just let it elapse and come to an end. Now, given our present administration and its white nationalist racist ideology, y'all forgive me, my ears are popping. That's why I keep doing that. I don't know why that's happening. But given his white nationalist isolationist ideology, this is a crucial time because you could see this nutcase easily deciding to just let the whole thing lapse. But now, since it is something that is supposedly his own creation, I think that he will effort to make sure that it stays in place. But he is going to try and force some significant changes to the agreement that I'm sure that Canada and Mexico, specifically Mexico, will find very onerous and could put us in some serious jeopardy economically, socially, as well as spiritually. The decision that is going to be made in July of 2026 is going to have an outsized effect on the entire global community. Essentially, the future of North America and the North American trade supply chains, labor standards, energy cooperation will all be on the table at one time, and they will all be in jeopardy based upon the leaders of these three countries coming together, these three on the sixth year. Are you catching the significance of these numbers? 3 and 6. These three coming together on the sixth year to make an agreement, okay, about or to ratify this agreement that's already in place, and either to let it continue to work and flow as it is, to modify it, or to let it sunset, that is, let it lapse and collapse. Now, why is this so crucial and critical? This single event has the potential to reconstruct economic alliances, disrupt industries, and redefine geopolitics. And here is why. Number one, the economic domino effect. Whether you like it or not, believe it or not, or even are aware of it or not, the economy, the global economy, is all interconnected. Every economy around the globe is connected to every other economy. And so what happens in one country has an effect on all of the countries of the world. What happens in one economy affects all economies. The markets are connected. The financial exchange, the forex exchange are all interconnected. One thing affects the other. But there are certain countries that are major superpowers that when their economy goes through a drastic change, has a drastic shift that takes place, it has a much larger effect on the global economy and the global world stage. And the United States and Canada and Mexico are three of those countries. Okay, of course, Europe, Asia, those countries are part of that as well. And of course, the countries in Africa and the continent, which is quickly becoming a united nation. But that's a whole nother conversation. I keep telling y'all, keep your eye on what's happening in Africa, because what happens in Africa changes the entire world. As goes Africa, so goes the rest of the world. That in the midst of all of the confusion and chaos that's taking place, there is an uprising. There is the Church of Philadelphia, if you will. There is this remnant that is assembling in the continent of Africa, where the 54 countries are beginning to unite and come together around one common cause, and that is going to shift the entire globe. But that's a whole nother conversation I'm going to talk about. That's one of my 13 things, so we'll get to that one a little bit later. Okay? But three of these countries are going to be making a crucial decision July of 2026. The economic effect, $1.5 trillion plus in trade flows annually between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. $1.5 trillion plus annually, every single year. And this affects cars, food, electronics, energy, manufacturing of components, 4 different widgets and gadgets that we like to enjoy, and creature comforts that we enjoy. 1.5 trillion plus annually is affected by this USMCA. This trade is imperially important. It is one of the largest and most important trade agreements and deals that exists on the planet. And the decision that is going to be made in this particular session, this particular coming together of these 3 countries, major countries, major trade, will have an outsized effect on the global economic system. And it will have a direct, immediate effect on those who live in those countries. And let me talk about those of us who live in the United States. Already we're going to see, and we're experiencing, the rise in cost of goods and services in the United States because of the ridiculous tariff policy that Trump has put into place, and his claims that, we've gotten $17 trillion. That's a bunch of bull. That's a number he pulled out of his behind. There's been no $17 trillion worth of nothing, okay? But the fact is, and this is an undeniable fact that no one can dispute, the indisputable fact is that the United States will end up, the people of the United States are the ones who pay the tariff. Up front, the tariff is launched against the country that is wanting to sell goods and commodities within the United States. Those corporations that are going to purchase those goods and bring them into the United States are going to pass the cost of those tariffs right on down the line to who? The consumer. So then the things that you were buying that were made in China or made in Mexico or made in some other country will now cost more. This is called inflation. Tariffs drive up inflation. That's just it. They raise costs and say, so, ladies and gentlemen, when we began to engage in this kind of economic policy, if this particular agreement, the USMCA, is allowed to lapse or gets held up or gets bogged down with this present administration's crazy affection and affinity for tariffs, then we can see the cost of cars going through the roof. Okay? We can see the cost of cars going through the roof. The cost of food, grocery prices. You understand that most of, if not all, but not all, most of the fruits, vegetables that we consume in this country don't come from this. It comes from our trade with Mexico. While we're being so harsh against those who are quote unquote undocumented, okay, come from Mexico. We curse Mexico, talk about Mexico, the Mexicans and this, that, and the other, but the avocados and other fruits that you love so much come from there, and they are the price ranges are held in abeyance, that is held within a specific structure because of this USMCA. If this is allowed to lapse, if we enter into a trade war with our own partners, that is Canada and Mexico, you could see those prices begin to soar. Fruits, vegetables in the United States will go through the roof. Okay? Cars, because a lot of our car parts are constructed and manufactured in Mexico, in Canada, and then brought to the United States, and they are assembled here. Are you understanding what I'm saying? We don't manufacture them here. Now, there's a specific reason that we don't do a lot of manufacturing in the United States anymore. Okay? It's because of our terrible economic policies that we have in place that makes it a whole lot cheaper for corporations to go overseas and have things manufactured there with slave labor and cheap labor and child labor, and then brought back to the United States. And so something that they paid $2 to have manufactured in another country, they can now bring to this country and sell for $100 or $200 or $300. Are you understanding what I'm saying? It costs them pennies to have it made in another country, and then they come here because capitalism is all about greed. Y'all remember Gordon Gekko? Greed is good. Well, that's what capitalists believe. They believe greed is a good thing. And so the more you can squeeze out of people, the more you should. You remember COVID when they said, oh, we got to raise the prices because there's so much of a demand being placed on these things. We got to raise the prices, but we promise as soon as the crisis is averted and COVID is eliminated and things go back to normal, those prices will come back down to normal. Did they come down? No. The drivers of inflation are not giving money to people. It is not the social welfare program. It is not giving grants and giving assistance to people, to the American people, and putting cash in their hands. The driver of inflation is greed. Corporate greed. And they're going to continue to raise prices as much as they can raise them to the point where people, as long as people are willing to pay what they're asking, they'll keep raising the price. It is not until there is an outright revolt that demand begins to lessen that the supply becomes cheaper. Supply and demand, just that simple. Okay? When the demand lessens, then the supply is increased, then the cost begins to come down. Okay? All right. So, the review of this particular agreement, the USMCA, could determine whether North America remains a unified economic bloc competing with China and with the UA, or whether it fractures into fragment and becomes a fragmented national protectionism organism. What's going to be decided at that time is going to have a global economic effect. It will affect currency, it will affect inflation, it will affect energy and environment. The agreement includes energy components, energy corporations, and environmental standards. If it is amended, it could redefine the rules for oil pipelines, for renewable energy studies and research, for lithium, for EVs, for batteries for those EVs and battery supply chains, and all of these things, which are strategic resources that are necessary, established within the 2020 and now ramping up. What they decide is going to have an outsized effect on these particular things. The labor and migration, it will have a dramatic effect. In 2026, the review is also going to spotlight labor conditions, wages, and cross-border migration and immigration. Immigration is a big deal here right now because of the ridiculous things that we have. Immigration is the smoke screen for why we have troops in the streets right now. You do realize that this whole idea behind trying to get all of the illegals out of the country is a smoke screen. Okay? I hope you realize that. I hope you're paying attention. I hope you are savvy enough, intuitive enough to recognize it's a smokescreen. This is an effort to get the American people accustomed to having the U.S. troops and Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, the military in the streets, so that when this administration decides to declare martial law, it won't seem like that big of a leap. Because believe me when I say to you, this clown wants to be a dictator and has no intention of leaving the office of president ever. He wants to die in office. He will not go peacefully into that night. And he is setting up the courts, the judicial system, the Congress, and now the military, and all of the different levers that people don't normally think about because they just worked, and so we never gave them much thought, and we never thought about solidifying and enforcing them, reinforcing them, making them solid, setting up barriers that can't be broken. Well, he has exploited all of those weaknesses because he intends to declare martial law. He intends to declare the Insurrection Act, use that as a cudgel to be able to unify his power, solidify his power, and he does not intend to leave office. We are going to see an all-out war, a coup, okay, by this administration. Mark my words, save this video. You can say I said it, and yes, I'm saying it at the time when the FBI and the CIA and the other government agencies are targeting people for what they say on social media. And if you say anything that appears to be anti this government or anti this president, then you could be under attack and become a target. I already understand it. I posted about it the other day in our Patreon. I know they're monitoring it. I know they're watching it. I am not going to allow it to curtail me from speaking the truth. So you got to know that that's getting ready to happen. So it will definitely have, but this agreement will have an outsized effect and implication where migration and labor is concerned. Wages, cross-border migration, especially in manufacturing hubs throughout the United States and the Mexico border. Expect strong, crazy, intense debates around automation, around fair wages, around the human cost of globalization. The geopolitical stage and power play that will take place during the course of this negotiation. The U.S. will use this review as a way to leverage their influence over Mexico and over Canada regarding Chinese companies that are investing in Mexico, because China is starting to invest a lot more in Mexico. They're also doing so in Africa. The United States is not really paying close attention to that, but trust me, there is a undercurrent of investment coming from China and from Europe, but mainly China, that is happening in Africa. There are treaties and agreements that are being formulated right now that will be solidified, that will be good for Africa, good for the countries within the continent. Okay? And so the United States will use this agreement, the USMCA, to try and leverage their influence where those trade concerns are the focus. Uh, of course, he'll talk about securing the border and build a wall and sending people out and deporting them and everything, and trying to force Mexico specifically, but also Canada, to agree with the United States, or if not agree, at least not stand in the way. Okay? This will also test the Western Alliance and the will of the Western Alliance amidst the rising influence of the BRICS. Okay? This is going to shape our supply chains. It's going to have an outsized effect on the investment community. It's going to have an outsized effect on the job and industry community, on the digital trade, as well as AI and technology advances. This one decision in July of 2026. Okay? All right. Let's talk very quickly about then the spiritual implication. First of all, I told you to take note of the fact that this happens the 6th year after the agreement was solidified in 2020. 6 years. 3 major countries. 3 and 6. Okay? The law or the cycle of 6 is in place, in play. 6 years after the 2020 reset in 2026 symbolizes the 2026, 6 symbolizing review, reflection, and renewal, regeneration. Numerologically, it is tied to balance, accountability, and harmony. The vibration of 6 in numerology represents responsibility, service, and cooperative cooperation. The region, that is the United States, Mexico, and Canada, must decide, will we evolve forward as a unified front, or will we regress into division? And given the current administration, it seems likely that we may be leaning toward the regression. The only thing that gives me a little bit of hope is the egoic nature of our president, the narcissism, that since the USMCA has his name on it, he will fight a little bit more for it to keep it intact, while still trying to leverage his influence to bend it to his will. But there is a good chance for regression, because he will allow this particular agreement to lapse and then try and blame Mexico and Canada for it. It's their fault. They've just been trying to take advantage of the United States. Oh, they're terrible. They've been doing it for decades. They're stupid people. And if it wasn't for me, we wouldn't be where we are now. But I caught them. I'm smarter than them. Stupid. Narcissistic. Okay? But the law of correspondence says that there is always going to be a corresponding reaction. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. There's a corresponding action that is going to take place as a result of the decision that is made. What happens in this review will mirror a deeper truth, that systems that don't serve the greater good will either evolve or dissolve. Let me say that again. The law of correspondence will mirror and reflect in what is decided in this agreement. That the systems that are put in place throughout the global community that don't serve the highest good of all humanity will either evolve, that is, change, shape themselves in a manner that will positively impact humanity and the global society, or they will dissolve, plunging us further into chaos, what appears to be chaos, for a grander shift and a grander outcome. Those two things hang in the balance, depending upon the attitude, disposition, and position that these countries' leaders make, with the United States being the central piece in this agreement. Okay? The region has got to decide whether it's going to evolve forward or regress into division, whether we evolve or dissolve. Spiritually, this moment will challenge our leaders and the citizens and all of the communities at large to act with integrity rather than act out of greed and fear and division. Okay? The law of cause and effect, which works in conjunction with the law of correspondence, is the overriding umbrella law for every cause, for every effect, whether there is a definite perpetual cause, and for every cause there is a definite and predictable effect, and every effect then becomes a cause. Every effect has the seeds of causation in it. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So it creates kind of this cycle of occurrences that continues to build this snowball effect until something else is introduced into the equation that changes the outcome. But if you continue to do the same, to build upon the same seeds of causation, you continue to get a greater and greater effect. In other words, definition of insanity, you keep doing the same thing expecting a different outcome. As long as you keep doing the same thing, acting the same way, responding the same way, you are going to get the same outcome. As long as the United States continues to act nationalistically, isolationist, from an isolationist mindset, from a racist, fascist mindset, we will continue to get the same effect. It is the moment that we begin to introduce a different ideology into the equation that we start to get a different effect. So the law of cause and effect will decide decades of exploitation and inequality within the trade and labor systems are coming to a head, and the harvest is about to come to the front. The seeds that we've sown over these last 6 years, where our trade policies are concerned, are about to come to harvest. This review is not just economic policy, it is a spiritual test of the collective maturity, whether or not we've matured or evolved, or whether we have devolved, and now we're going to make economic decisions and choices based upon the egoic narcissistic ideology of one man and his minions. You can't divorce the natural from the spiritual. Everything natural has spiritual implication. And so these choices being made by those who are in power, that's why it's so important that we are involved in the political process and that we choose leaders that rightly represent the true nature of who we are and our better angels. Because the choices that they make are the seeds of causation that bring about a predictable effect. The law of cause and effect not only affects us as individuals, but it affects us collectively as well as the whole of humanity. Okay? All right? Now, finally, prophetically, the prophetic shift in the energy in 2026 could mark the beginning of a continental reorganization, setting the tone for the 2030s. That we'll be entering in 4 years after that. The paradigm shift where powers become more decentralized and become more interconnected. Okay? So this is one of the 13 things that you definitely need to be consciously aware of, looking at, praying about, sending out good energy vibrations, affirmations, and actively involved in shaping the decisions. And yes, I know that that's extremely difficult when given all of the smoke screens and chaos that's happening here in the United States. Trump is a master at this because he understands that if he lights 35 fires, you won't pay attention to the inferno that's happening behind him. So he's real good about creating all of these shiny objects and saying, look over here, look over there, look over here, well, look over here, well, look at this, and look at that, and look at this, and look at that. And everybody, and the news media, which is really an unwitting participant in his nonsense, goes chasing behind every one of those red herrings that he throws out there, chasing it down and spending hours pontificating and analyzing and going about it and bringing on specialists and experts to talk about this, that, and the other. And they are not even paying attention to what's actually the real main focus. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Come on, keep your eye on the little birdie, keep your eye on the little birdie so that you don't see what I'm doing over here. Look at the left hand so you don't see what my right hand is doing. Look at my left hand, look at my left hand, look at my left hand. See, see, see. Look at the left hand, look at the left hand. Don't pay attention to what's happening. Pay no attention to what's happening with my right hand over here. That's snatching your life away and taking away your freedoms. That is setting a stage for an autocracy, for an oligarchy. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Okay? The implications are huge. Yes, I know this is not the kind of message that you're going to shout and dance and speak and buck and, yeah, God getting ready to do it, slap your neighbor, high five. No, this is one where you need to engage your critical thinking and your intuitive spirit, and then collectively come together with your anointing, your spirit, your energy, your force, with other like-minded individuals to begin to shift the global consciousness so that maybe we might have a chance at heading off some of these bad decisions that this egoic, narcissistic, manic clown has a tendency to make. And do understand that even though he is the face of the tyranny that is taking place, he is not the mastermind behind it. He's too stupid to be that kind of a strategist. It is the people like Stephen Miller, the main culprit, who is a nationalist, racist, white trash, self-hating person that you have ever met. And I hesitate even calling him a person, but he is a person that you have ever met. This is his brainchild. And with people like J.D. Vance, who, see, and the difference between Trump and J.D. Vance is Trump is evil, sadistic, wicked. J.D. Vance is all of those things, but he's also intelligent. See, Trump is just stupid. He's going to be led by his impulses. Vance is intelligent. And you get Vance into power with a maniacal, evil troll like Stephen Miller, and the damage is multiplied a millionfold. The only thing that those two lack is the popularity with the people. That's what makes Trump a good figurehead, because he's created this cult of personality where people worship this man. They worship him. It is a cult beyond anything that Jim Jones or David Koresh or anybody else has ever even imagined or thought about. He has created a cult where his followers believe he can do no wrong. He is the Messiah. And he can pretty much say anything. He made a statement that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and it wouldn't affect him at all. And he is absolutely right when it comes to his supporters. He could murder someone that they love right in front of them, And they would look away and say, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. Or, oh yeah, he may have done it, but they needed to do it. He was justified. It was a reason for it. Okay? He is a absolute cult leader. The biggest cult leader in the world. The biggest and the most powerful cult leader in the world happens to be the president of the United States. And you better wake up and pay attention, ladies and gentlemen, because everything that's happening in the natural has spiritual implication. Okay? As this cancerous ideology begins to grow, if we don't head it off, if it is not surrounded and transmuted by the energy of those who understand how the law of perpetual transmutation of energy works, who understand that they are spiritual alchemists and can therefore reshape this energy into a form that serves us, thereby shifting the collective mindset of the global community. Imagine if the global community follows this nutcase down that road to darkness. Imagine if more and more people collectively began to come into agreement with these ideologies. Then imagine the kind of hellscape that we'll be living in then. That, ladies and gentlemen, will be a manifestation of hell. So there is a real spiritual implication, a really large, huge spiritual implication. So it's important that you are keeping your eyes open and that you are paying attention. This is just number one of the 13 things you need to know. That this agreement, the USMCA, is coming up for review. July 2026. Write it down. Put it on your calendar. Make it a focus of your meditation, your prayer. Make it a focus. Okay? Because the outcome of this agreement, this review, is going to have a huge effect on the entire globe. On the entire globe. Now, there are those who are asking, well, what's going to be the outcome? Do you see that? I don't. I wish I did. If I did, I would tell you. But I don't. I don't see what the outcome's going to be. I don't see what the agreement's going to be. Doesn't mean that I won't know. And maybe it'll be revealed to me as the time draws nearer. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't ask to know what I know now. It just comes. Okay? But I'll give you this. Everything that I know, I'll make sure you know. I'll make sure I share it. I'll make sure I talk about it for as long as I have this platform. Now, if they swoop in and try and take it from me, then I have to find another way. But as long as I have it, I will make sure that you know that you will not be in the dark. You'll know what's coming beforehand. Okay? Now, I said in our last session, and I'm closing, I'll repeat again that we are in the midst of what I have labeled the hustle, the heave, and the harvest. The hustle, the heave, and the harvest. The hustle is October to December. The heave is January to June. The harvest is from July to December. So it covers the period of time from now to the end of 2026. We're in the hustle stage. And what that means is that in this stage, I'm instructing everyone spiritually and physically, where your finances are concerned, to focus your energy on paying down your debts. During these next 3 months, October, November, December, I want you to postpone all of your extracurriculars. If you're planning on going on vacation, you're planning on buying a new car, planning on making some other big purchase, put all of that on hold. Take all of that money that you were planning to put toward that and put it toward paying down your debt. Listen to me now. I know that sounds hard and harsh, but you're gonna thank me later on. You will thank me later on if you listen to my prophetic and apostolic instruction. Take that money and focus on paying down your debt. Outside of your teruma, your tithe, and your second tithe, those are the only areas of giving that you need to be focused on continuing during these next 3 months. Don't sow any other seeds, sacrifices. Yes, that's right. You got a preacher, teacher telling you, don't sow seed. Yes, I'm telling you, don't sow any seeds. Don't make any sacrifices. Don't be giving to anybody and anything outside of where you give your teruma, your first tithe, your second tithe. Your second tithe is primarily for you, okay? And if you don't understand those three areas, then you need to become a partner with the Emerge movement. Come on over into my Patreon and join the Patreon at patreon.com/emergelifeenrichment and join so that you can learn the difference between those three, the teruma, first tithe and second tithe, what they mean, what they signify, what that financial strategy is about. And then you can learn the financial fitness plan so that you can be prepared financially and get to a place where you are living in abundance and wealth. All of that is in the Patreon. It comes with being a partner with the Emerge movement. So consider doing that today. It's $50 a month. It's very easy to do when you sign up for Patreon. But during the course of this next 3 months, I'm telling you, focus on paying down your debt. Focus on paying down your debt. Get your exit strategy or your survival strategy in place. If you've been listening to me for the last few weeks, months even, you've heard me say that again and again. You need to have either an exit strategy or a survival strategy. Okay? And pay down your debt. Hold off on any other great big purchases and any other things like that. Put all of your residual disposable income toward paying down your debts. Listen to me. Don't be hard-headed. Don't be rebellious. Don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to get anything out of you. I'm trying to get something to you. Listen to what I'm telling you. This is the hustle section. Pay down your debt during these next 3 months. If you can get a second job, take that second job and take every dime of your net income and put it toward paying down your significant debt. Get as much out of debt as you possibly can. If you can pay off all your debts, do it. If it means taking a second job or you got a side hustle that you can do, whatever you can do to produce more revenue coming in, take all of that residual revenue and put it toward paying down your debt. No new MacBooks, no new televisions, no new cars, no new houses, no new vacations, no new outfits, no new anything. Just focus all of your energy and residual income to paying down your debt. Am I making myself clear? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Pay down your debt. I don't have enough likes on this screen here. I need y'all to start double tapping the screen or clicking that like button before we go off the air. I need a whole lot more likes before I go off the air, and I'm getting ready to go off in about 2 minutes here. So I need y'all to do that. Do that right now while I'm talking about paying down your debt. Okay? This next year and 3 months is divided into these three parts: the hustle, the heave, and the harvest. I explained the heave and the harvest in the Patreon. I'll talk about it more as we get to that particular point. I'm really focused on the hustle right now. The hustle is to pay down your debt. The hustle is to do whatever is necessary to lower your overhead, to pay down all of your debts, to get everything to the place where it is either eliminated or it is wholly manageable and you can go through it with ease. Pay down your debt, because something is coming, something is arising, and you need to be positionally ready for what is about to unfold. And you're going to need to pay down your debt in order to be able to do so. Pay down your... Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? Are you listening to me carefully? Pay down. If you've never listened to a prophet before, if you've never listened to a seer, listen to me what I'm telling you right now. Pay down your debts. And you'll thank me come January. You will thank me come January. You will be sending me love letters to thank me. Pay down your debt. Get a second job. Get a second job. Get a side hustle. Get a third job if you need to. Pay down as much of your... Don't physically put yourself in danger now. But, if you can handle working a third job, do it. It's just for 3 months. Pay down your debts. DoorDash, Instacart, what's some of these other ones that are out there? Spark, Treads. There's a whole bunch of them. Get out and do some kind of side hustle. Go to the flea market and sell something. Sell some of your paintings. Have a yard sale. Pay down your debts. Now, don't touch your savings or your investments. Let that stay there. I'm talking about residual income. Pay down your debts. Now, don't pull money out of your investments or your savings to pay down debt. Don't do that. Leave that money there. Okay? Create new streams, new revenue to pay down debt. Pay it down. That's your debt, your business's debt, every debt that you're associated with. Pay it down. Okay? Continue to give your teruma, your first tithe, your second tithe. Continue to operate by the budget. Well, most of you don't have a budget. Again, join the Emerge Empowerment Patreon and the Emerge Enrichment Patreon, and we'll give you the financial fitness plan, and you'll have a clearly delineated budget structure that you can follow, that if you follow it within a year's time, you'll be financially stable, and within 5 years' time, your money will be working for you instead of you working for your money. That's my guarantee. Give me 1 year for you to be financially stable, 5 years for your money to be working for you, and you not having to work for your money. Okay? So continue with those things, but then everything else, use it to pay down your debt. Now, some of you don't tithe, you don't do anything. You don't give a teruma, you don't do nothing. That's on you. You're not going to go to hell, you're not going to be cursed with a curse or anything else like that, but you also stop the flow, you hold up the flow of abundance, increase, and money flowing into your life when there's no form of financial structure that is put in place or strategy to bring forth more revenue and align yourself spiritually and harmoniously with the laws of abundance. Okay? Tithing is not a law. Tithing is a practice. It is a principle. It's not a law. It's not God gonna get you if you don't. That it's not. Okay? It is a practice and a principle that is abundance. That's what it does. It aligns you with the laws that govern abundance. All right? And how many times have I said that now? You got it? Pay down your debt. I'm telling you. You will thank me when January rolls around. I promise you will. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen. With that in mind, I'm not even going to put up the normal placard that would show ways that you're able to give and support this ministry. I don't want you to worry about that. I want you to pay down your debt. I'm fine over here, so I'm good. All right? Pay down your debt. Take that money that you were going to use as a seed to sow into this ministry and pay down your debt. You were going to sow into this platform, use it to pay down your debt. Now, if you are tithing to this ministry, to this platform, you're sending your teruma to me, you continue to do that. If you don't have someone to tithe and give your teruma to, you can send it to me. I'm good ground. I am absolutely good ground. Okay? But outside of that, pay down your debt. Okay? All right. I don't see any questions or comments coming up that I need to put on screen or I need to address. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. I look forward to going on to number 2 of the 13 things that you need to know for 2026 next Sunday at 9 a.m. here on the Emerge Empowerment Session. Have an absolutely wonderful day. Goodbye, everybody.
Some of you are even afraid to dream, afraid to imagine. But I'm here to tell you that you are an infinite, limitless, boundless being. Are you willing to do what is necessary to have what you desire?
You've been listening to Apostle Isaac Miles, the disruptive innovator, a mentor, an author, a motivational speaker, an entrepreneur, and the founder and spiritual director at emergelec Life Enrichment Center. Please take a minute to subscribe, like, and share this page. If you'd like to become a partner, you can do so by emailing us at emerge.lifecenter@gmail.com. Again, that's emerge.lifecenter@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for watching.